JJ the CPA here. Hope you're doing well. Why would I tell you to stop calling the IRS? Well, as a CPA, I've been practicing for over 28 years, all in tax. I deal with the IRS all the time. So I want you to just pause for a minute and just be aware of a couple of things before you decide to call them. The first is the agent that you're talking to is going to give you the best information that they have based on their experience, but it'll not have any authority. And it doesn't mean that that IRS agent gave you wrong information or false information. What the IRS agent tells you has no authority. Now, they may give you a tip or here's how to solve something or whatever the case is. Great, you can follow those items. But many call the IRS. They're trying to get an answer to something. They're trying to figure out if they can or cannot do something. So that agent that you're going to be talking to is going to give you the best information that they have. The IRS has wonderful resources, the Volunteer Income Tax Assistant Program, where the IRS spends its own dollars to, in essence, make sure that people are having access to good tax information. The IRS website is chock full of everything that you could possibly imagine that's literally then at your fingertips related to any and everything from A to Z on taxes, from payroll to corporate to you name it. The IRS has done a phenomenal job in getting you that information. And yes, they have a customer service line that you can call. But the reason I am putting together this video is that I am seeing in prior videos where people are leaving comments to say, well, I called the IRS and they said to do this, or I called the IRS and they told me I couldn't do this, or I called the IRS and they said. The thing to note is this, first of all, when someone calls the IRS, it's specific to their circumstances. Very specific to their circumstances. So you don't know if they're married filing jointly. Did they get a divorce? Do they have an S corp, a C corp, partnership? Do they have employees? Are they self-employed? Everybody has different circumstances. So whatever you hear somebody heard or was told by the IRS, that's only for them. That only applies to them. So when you talk to an agent, they don't have any authority on anything they're telling you. And then the reason I'm telling you that is that you don't get to write down and say, oh, well, per agent, because they give you their agent number, per agent, such and such, wonderful person, gave me great information, and per them, Well, because you could write down whatever you wanted. So in the event of audit or in tax court or any of that effect, you'll never ever, and the IRS makes it clear, be able to say, oh, well, an IRS agent told me I could, or an IRS agent told me I couldn't do that, or whatever the case is. The only thing that has authority is tax law. Believe it or not, you can go to many pages of the IRS website, and it will say at the bottom, this has no authority. It'll literally state, and on many pages related to the employee retention tax credit, you'll find at the bottom that says, this information has no authority, it's not official, and you cannot rely on it in court of law. So what can you rely on? Well, you can rely on instructions to the forms. You can rely on the forms. When the IRS puts out a revenue ruling, they put out a revenue procedure. They put out, in essence, a IRS memo. Okay, those are official documents, official declarations, if you will, that the IRS has put out there. And of course, it's up to our interpretation. But when you're calling the IRS, be mindful that they're not going to be able to give you anything of authority, any information of authority. Now, many are calling the IRS because they want to know where the status is on a particular item. So just know this, with the pandemic that happened in 2020, the IRS, no fault of their own, is millions and millions of pieces of mail behind. Now, I'm sure they're getting caught up, and I'm sure they've caught up with all of the old mail, but that also kind of puts them behind on just the mail that came in at the end of 2020 and into 21. And I know they're doing a fabulous job. They're working overtime or working extra. They brought in extra agents, however you want to say it, to diligently get things taken care of. But it's also meaning that anything you're mailing to the IRS, it's just going to take them a little more time to process it. Be sure to always mail whatever it is, a certified mail, get a return receipt just so that you have it. But, if you mail an amended return, a 1040X, for instance, it's easy in normal circumstances. It'd be 6 months before you hear anything. Because that's go to a department, they got to look it over, they got to submit the information and re-enter it, etc. If you're doing a Form 941X, and it's especially related to the employee retention tax credit, well, because there was the retroactive law that went into play that allowed those that got PPP to then take advantage of ERTC all the way back to March of 2020, there's a lot of businesses that are then amending their 941s, which is the payroll forms. 941X is an amended payroll form, quarterly payroll form. So there's millions and millions and millions and millions of businesses that are sending in those amended returns. And it's just going to take time for the IRS to process them. Because when they process an amended return, they have to go in, verify that the information was originally submitted, that it was submitted as you indicated on your amended return. They got to update the information that you're then providing to them, calculate it. And so if you're sending in a 941X, you're sending in a 1040X, which is an amended individual return, it's just going to take time. I would say 6 months easy. Now, is there anything wrong with calling the IRS just to check on the status? No. But for me, given that the IRS is my job security, right? Meaning the IRS laws, the rules, the tax forms, that's what I do for a living. So on behalf of the IRS, if you're just calling to get a status and you haven't even hit your 6 month period, maybe save yourself a little bit of time. More importantly, save the IRS a little bit of time, because all they're going to tell you is, well, we don't have it. So I'm seeing a lot of feedback saying, well, I called them and they're saying that they don't have it. And so should I resubmit it? No. Be patient. Now, if it's been more than 6 months, what we do with our clients, and have always done this, we'll just send a letter to the IRS, say we want to inquire of this. A letter is always better with the IRS because there's documentation. And when you write the IRS will respond to you. Now, they may send a notice to say, hey, we need a little more time to respond to you, but they'll respond to you. When you call, yes, the agent will make notation that you called, but that's maybe left up to the representative how detailed those notes are going to be. Not at all am I saying the representative isn't going to be as detailed as they think they should be, but writing a letter also would be the next step. But I would be waiting more than 6 months before I would even send a letter. If you decide you want to resubmit an amended return, which I don't believe you should, that's just my personal opinion. If you want to resubmit it, then just do it. However, all you're now doing is mucking up the waters, because now that department's going to get it and start then processing a duplicated amended return. They'll probably catch it in the process. But that's why we won't resubmit an amended return, whether it's a 941X or a 1040X. What we'll do is we'll send a letter saying, hey, we filed this. Now, I may include the first page of a 1040X. It probably would be fine if you included the 941X again, but I mean in red, I would put resubmitted. This has already been submitted. This has only been submitted, for example, or only been submitted to show you that we submitted it. Don't just do a fresh resubmission. let the IRS know when they get this additional letter. But again, the IRS is already behind. I wouldn't even resubmit any documentation. So we do have a couple of clients. They were with a payroll company, didn't listen to us. They filed the 941 right at the beginning of January of 21. So they weren't able to report their ERTC. So then they had to file a Form 941X, and that was in January of 2021. Our clients haven't heard boo. Guess what? We're now at the beginning of July. I'm not writing the IRS on behalf of that client. Not even going to do it. Right now, related to 941X, related to the ERTC, related to 941Xs for last year, okay? Amending a 2020 payroll form, 941. I'm not going to send a letter on behalf of a client to inquire of it until we've hit over 9 months. And then at that time, if it's still, there seems to be still a sentiment that the IRS is still catching up, I still probably won't send anything. Why? Calling and writing doesn't get you further in the line, because when you're talking to a representative, they're not in the department that has anything to do with processing your amended return. You're never going to be able to talk to somebody in the department that's amending or processing your amended return. So in some ways, I get it. It's like it's human nature. Well, I want to know. So recently we had a client that got in a set of circumstances that we discovered that they qualified for the ERTC, but it was after the Form 941 was filed. Well, it was because it was based on gross receipts being down. 941 was filed right on the first day that it could be filed. We, a week later, did our analysis. The gross receipts were down. So an amended 941 had to be filed on this particular client because that payroll company isn't staying in step with the payroll company that all of our clients typically use. Anyways, it gets filed, and this client like calling the IRS. I'm like, what are you doing? First of all, I call the IRS. You don't call the IRS. I call the IRS. As a CPA or as an EA or as a lawyer or as the designated representative, there's a special phone number that we get to call to talk to the agent that probably has a little bit more experience because they're going to be dealing with an experienced caller, us, the preparers, the professionals, to be able to get maybe just better answers. But guess what? I don't call the IRS. I don't want my clients to call the IRS. We're going to wait. So I told the client, like, what are you doing? We're just going to wait. Like, there's no way they're going to have processed. You've waited weeks. That's it. We're waiting 9 months. You want to wait to 6. Now, if you made it to here and you're a fellow tax professional, CPA, EA, or your tax professional has told you different, everybody has their opinion. There's no right, there's no wrong. This is just based on experience. It's just based on 28 years. This is based on not clogging up the system. This is based on realizing that sometimes you just have to be patient, because when you're filing an amended return, the IRS already processed your original return. You're now going back to the IRS and saying, oh, I need to change something. Okay? The IRS has a department to process that. And I'm not saying at all that they're going to take their sweet time just because they don't care. Not at all. Okay? They're going to get it processed. But the point is that you have at least 2 years to file an amended return to get a refund. You can file an amended return older than that, but in terms of a refund, you have 2 years. And on 941, there's some pretty easy circumstances where you technically have 3 years to file it. So what that means is that when the IRS is going through and filing and processing the amended returns, there's not a due date. Okay, you submitted it, you met it. You submitted it within the 2 years or the 3 years if you meet that qualification. You submitted it, you're good. They now need to process it. So it's not a due date driven activity for the IRS. Doesn't mean it's not any more of a priority or less of a priority of anything. Okay? But I'm just saying, let's go realistic here. Okay? There's no hurry or extra priority that would need to be given to an amended return. Right? So I don't know what business you're in, but if you already did your job for somebody and they come back and they want you to make a change, what happens? Right? Well, they kind of have to just get back in line, right? They just kind of have to get back in line. So I'm just trying to save you some frustration. When would it make sense to call the IRS? I just don't call the IRS. I write them, and I only write them after a long period of time. And I never write the IRS inquiring of anything. I never call the IRS inquiring of anything, okay, unless it's been over 9 months or been over a year, depending on what it is. And the only reason I would actually write the IRS to inquire of something, it was because we already submitted something and we didn't hear boo. I wouldn't resubmit it. I would send a letter to say, hey, here's a copy of what we submitted, or first page of it. We respectfully request that you process this. And the only reason I then send a letter is that when you send a letter to the IRS, it does then automatically require the IRS to respond. They'll typically send a letter to say, hey, we got your letter, we'll need another 60 days to respond. And then they come back and they respond. So the purpose of the letter isn't just, well, gee golly, I haven't heard anything, so I better write a letter because I'm so scared that they haven't received it and I better make sure. No, the purpose of writing a letter is that it then requires a response from the IRS. It then requires them to look it up, figure out what it is, start resolving it. Hurrying that process actually makes it worse, in my opinion. That's my experience. So when you submit something and then you hurry and follow up with a letter too soon, and now these things are doing this. Okay? They're clogging up because you just didn't give enough time for things to work themselves out. So a little bit of patience, I think, typically works things out. The last time we called the IRS was to simply document on a 3-year saga of trying to get a client a refund, but it was a business client on an amended return. Okay? It was just to document that we're still inquiring of the process of the amended return. So we were only calling to document. But guess what? The first time we called the IRS was a 1.5 years after we filed the amended return. Because guess what we did? 9 months after we filed it and we didn't hear boo, we wrote a letter. We included a copy of the amended return, as in just the summary page, and said, we processed this. Please confirm. It kicked a letter, so on and so forth. And then I'll just tell you this. I say this for those do-it-yourselfers. This is why you want a professional helping you. So that they will call the IRS. Because guess what? If your professional doesn't think you need to call the IRS, then that means you shouldn't call the IRS. This is how I usually convince a lawyer who's a client of mine that they don't need to call the IRS, right? Because lawyers can call the IRS obviously on themselves, but they can call even behalf on clients. But I have a client, right? Let's say they're a lawyer. And I say, here's why you don't want to call the IRS. And you only want me to call the IRS. Because it'd be just the same as if your client went into court and started talking to the judge and you're not there. Like, well, what's the judge going to, first of all, tell your client? What's your client going to tell the judge? What's your client going to tell the opposing counsel? Right? An attorney would be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. No. I am the attorney. I would only talk to the judge. I would only talk to opposing counsel. Client, you go over there. I represent you. So with my clients, that's why with this one that told me to call the IRS, I was like, no. No, you're not calling. I call. I represent you. So this is why you need a tax professional, so that they can call on your behalf. Or better yet, they'll know when to call. Better yet, they'll tell you, hey, you don't need to call yet. Trust their judgment. So we get antsy. It's not going to make the water boil any faster, constantly lifting the lid. Have a tax professional call. They'll know when to call. Now, I'll tell you this. Yes, the IRS, most of the time, you're going to have to be on hold. So I can't even think of the last time I called the IRS. I literally cannot think of the last time I called the IRS. It was on this one client, that saga, but that had to have been 2019. Okay? But the thing is, back to what I told you originally, that agent doesn't have any authority. As great and as smart and as bright as they are, they don't have any authority. So there's really no reason to call the IRS to get any answers, because they're not going to give you any answers. They're not going to give you any specific answers. They're not going to be able to generate anything for you. They can look up on a computer and help you figure out where something's at. They can tell you where something needs to be filed. They're going to be as helpful as they possibly can be. But that's not a tax professional. The IRS is not your tax professional. Okay? Even though they have this volunteer income tax assistance, it's a different program. Yeah, if you can't afford a tax professional, you want to go the volunteer income tax assistance, which is really meant for those that are unable because of either a disability or age or some other reason that they literally cannot prepare a return. Could be blind, maybe illiterate, you name it. Not just somebody that is being a cheapskate. It's not really what that's meant for. So why are you messing with the IRS? What you should do is have a tax professional. That's what you should be doing. And I'll tell you this, it's folklore, right? Urban legend. But this is what kills me. Now, I don't have clients like this anymore, but someone will visit with their doctor, and the doctor will say, well, that looks like that could be cancer, so I'm going to have you schedule an appointment to go get this other test done, whether it's a biopsy or whatever it's going to be. I want you to go and get that test done, and then somebody else is going to review the results, and then I'm going to see you back after that. So it's going to be 2 or 3 weeks before you get the test, and then it's going to be another week before you can come back in and get the results. So you got 4 weeks to figure out if, or for you to wait around and figure out if you have cancer. And people are like, oh, okay. But by golly, when it comes to the IRS and it comes to taxes, right? Oh my, where's my refund? Where's this and that? Well, where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Right? So anxious. But on the same token, you just flip that token over, you flip that coin over, and people are so scared of the IRS for no reason. Like, oh, I don't want the IRS to come investigate me. They're not going to do that unless you're a drug dealer. Oh, I don't want them to take my truck. They're only going to take your truck if it's been years and you're not paying your taxes and they're substantial, right? People are irrational about the IRS. There's a phobia with the IRS, right? To this day, I still have wonderful, beautiful clients that are doctors and lawyers and been practicing for 30, 40 years, and they're geniuses. And they'll freak and they'll call and they're like, I just got an IRS notice. I think I'm getting audited. And I say, well, fax it to me. They fax it to me. And I'm like, okay, well, by the way, it's not from the IRS. This is from the county treasurer, and the county treasurer is just letting you know what the assessment is of your value. And yes, you're right, down in the very fine print, I don't even know how you saw it. It did say something in the word audit, but it was about their records, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't even from the IRS, or it was from the Employment Security Commission, and here's just your new rate for the next year. But just literally all of a sudden just can't read. Like, just can't read. Like frozen phobia. But then people will call the IRS. Like, you're afraid of the IRS, which you shouldn't be. I'm so scared of the IRS, but I'm going to call them. Why? Because I need to know where my refund is. Oh, you think I might have cancer? Okay, I'll wait 4 weeks. They don't call. They don't follow up. They don't go, well, I need to be in that appointment tomorrow. So after 28 years, what I'm telling you is this: stop calling the IRS. You have no business, in my opinion, calling the IRS. You know whose business it is to call the IRS? A professional. Okay? A professional. And if you can't afford a professional, okay, then guess what? I'm going to beg to differ with you, because when you call the IRS and then they say, oh, maybe you need to do this or maybe you do that, and you didn't explain it right, or they didn't understand something right, and now you're going to screw it up even more. You're going to send it to the wrong place, or whatever the case is, because you don't know what you're doing compared to a tax professional, right? Are you a chef? Well, does your CPA, are they as good a chef as you? Well, no. Are you a mechanic, or do you own a lawn care business? Are you an attorney? Are you a doctor or DJ? Hey, Mark and Vicky. Point is, you should be hiring professionals to then go and deal with this. Okay? I mean, if you're somebody that will represent yourself in court, then you probably are going to call the IRS. And guess how it's going to go when you represent yourself in court compared to if you had an attorney involved with it. Right? You may still get to the same result, but it's going to probably take you twice as long. You're not going to know the procedures, where an attorney could have helped you and got it solved in 3 seconds. Or better yet, an attorney would have been able to say, well, here's how we solve it, and we don't even have to go to court. Just the same as your tax professional, an EA, a CPA, can solve something without you even having to call the IRS. Oh, just log in here. Well, it's time to write a letter here. Oh, no, we need to file this. Or, you know what? Hey, time out. Take a deep breath. You're not going to speed this process up. Give it time. Give it time. Now, at the end of the day, what did I tell you in the beginning? The IRS is friendly. They're helpful. That agent that's going to answer that phone, they're going to help you the best that they can. I've not actually ever come across a rude IRS agent ever. Okay? They're going to give you the best information. They're going to help you out. They're going to do what they can. They're going to maybe say, yeah, sounds like you need to file 1120, or yeah, you might want to do this, or yeah, you might want to do that. But you can't walk away and go, oh, well, I talked to the IRS and they said blah, blah, blah. You didn't talk to the IRS. You talked to a representative who answered the phone, that gave you the best information that they had, and you don't know what their experience level is. And guess what? They don't know your circumstances. They don't know all the ins and outs of your circumstances. Only a tax professional who works with you is going to know those circumstances. So you don't call the IRS for advice. You call a tax professional for advice. It doesn't even mean the IRS would be against you. It doesn't mean the IRS would be like, oh, haha, they called, well, let's make sure we steer them down this path. No, not at all. You go to the IRS website, you're going to find all kinds of information on how to write things off and how to take tax credits and how to do it properly and all that stuff. Your tax professional. So I am telling you, the last time I called the IRS was in 19, and that might have been the only call to the IRS that year. I don't call the IRS. So why are you calling the IRS? Right? Now, if you're a CPA, EA, that you specialize in a practice where you got clients that they're having issues with the IRS, with payment arrangements or audits or whatever that, yeah, of course you're interacting with the IRS. I'm just talking about everyday normal circumstances of, well, I filed something and I just want to check in on it. Be patient, and especially this year, okay, following the year of the pandemic, or if you're watching this in 2022, right, it just takes time. I mean, I would tell a client in normal circumstances, going back to the beginning, if we're sending in an amended return, count on at least 6 months. We don't hear anything within 9, then we follow up. Not with a call, with a letter. Why? Because a letter causes the IRS to have to respond to the letter, which causes them to look into it. When you call the IRS, it doesn't force them to do anything. It doesn't create the reaction of them then sending a letter to you. They just log in and take a look, and they're like, no, I don't see anything, or yes, we have received it. So if you want to do that, that's okay. You're just clogging up the system. I don't know how that's actually going to speed anything up. Well, I just want to know if they got it. Well, then you should have sent it certified with a return receipt, because then you know they got it. And then if you don't hear boo in 9 months, you send a letter. It forces a response. It forces them to look into it. That's really, in my opinion, the better way to go. So I get it. You filed that 941X and you need the money right now. I need it right now. Well, maybe you should have filed a 941X and maybe not ask for a refund, but ask for this overpayment to be applied. For instance, with the ERTC. So I've got a playlist on the ERTC and got a seminar related to the ERTC. I've got future seminars coming out on the employee retention tax credit and kind of how we need to be dealing with things under current circumstances. But I'm telling you right now, you filed 941X, you're waiting it out. You filed an amended return, you're waiting it out. You filed a paper return, you're waiting it out. They get it done before that. That's phenomenal. All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in. I'd love it if you'd subscribe. And then don't you ever forget, you've never met a CPA quite like me. Have a great one.